pillar number 7, learn to respond, not to react. Learn to respond, not to react. Oh, I wanted to show you a video, but my laptop is gone off. A video on that one. I remember this story. This guy was just driving. He was in a rush. He wanted to overtake me. You know, sometimes it's difficult to overtake because of the other cars coming. And I was driving slowly, I was not in a hurry. And then when he overtook me, he made a sign like this, you know. Are these blessings? When someone, are these blessings? When someone is saying this, they are not blessings, it's cursing, isn't it? He said, I'm mentally disturbed. Right. I never answered back. And my wife looked at me and said, you're not answering back. I said, yes. Why should I do that? If I allow this man, if I answer back, he start shouting, and we start shouting at each other. He will deposit garbage into my system. That will affect me the whole week, raise my BP, my sugar, and other things that rises. So I just ignored. I just ignored. I'm not going to react. Because if I react, it's going to affect me. Right. There was another guy. Actually, when the doctor, we go to the doctor, and the doctor says, you are reacting to medication. I mean, you are responding. You are responding well to medication. You become happy. Because responding is good. But when he says, you are reacting to medication, I have to change. You become worried. Because reacting is right. Listen to another story. This guy was moving from Ngulumani. There's a township in Bulawayo called Ngulumani. And there's a college of education called United College of Education. Right, it's about 10 kilometers away from Ngulumani. So this guy was invited for an interview. Right? He was driving there, he was rushing. And then when he got to the robots, he found this guy who was stuck. He tried to hood, the driver was not, was stuck. And then when he was passing by, he showed him a middle finger, a sign of a middle finger. My career does not allow me to illustrate. I will leave that to your creative imagination. But you know what it means when someone shows you a middle finger. It was a big insult. Then the guy drove to UCE. That guy remained, fixing his car. He went. He was actually a lecturer at UCE. He was the chairperson of the panel, interview panel. When this guy got there, it was his turn. He sees this lecturer, this guy looks familiar. And he says, say, you look familiar. Then the guy says, yes. Remember, by the robots, our familiarity by the robots. And the guy knew that the interview was over. It took place where? At the robots. Learn to react, learn to respond, not to react. Even with our kids, we should learn to react. Many people have lost their jobs. I remember one guy after completing our teacher training, he beat the headmaster in the villages, slept. And then he was suspended and then fired. And we could now see him, the shoes were facing the other direction. You could see poverty all over. Because someone was failed to control himself. With these kids, if you don't sometimes, Mr. Pili will remember when Mr. Galai saw the child got into my legs. And then I said, Wena, go to hell and eat rubbish. Hey, I was very angry. I was called to the principal. Mr. N, sit here. The parent was there. Did you really say go to hell and eat rubbish? I'm telling you, I started blinking several times. And my bandana started shining even more. Learn to... sometimes these kids, you tell them, guys, here is your way. Write numbers, exercise, so and so, page, so and so. Then you go and sit down. Someone comes to you. Say, which exercise should I do? Say it as if you are saying it for the first time. Because a man is venom, a man is venom poison himself more than his victim. So we must not react. Let us respond in every situation as we deal with our kids. Even as we deal with our husbands. Many families are broken because of reaction. You react and become very hot. You know, before you you pour your husband with hot oil after seeing a stray message. Wait. Maybe count 1 up to 10 before you start pouring oil on her. Count 1 to 10. You know, before Mr. Takaisa, maybe you write a message to the teacher or whoever, or even us as teachers. You write to a parent, you are very, very angry. Before you say send, take a walk. Take a walk. Come back. Maybe you are going to rephrase the message. Instead of just kicking, say, let it go. It deserves it. You destroy some relationship.